Okay, great. Annalie, we're going to listen to your running record that you recorded earlier. And as we're listening, I want you to look at my screen and see if you hear any mistakes that you might have made. And I'll pause it as well to let you know if you made mistakes there too, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Today's communication and entertainment technology is often small enough.
So here you made a self-correction, which is really great.
Entertainment technology is often small enough to fit in your hand or in your pocket. However, earlier versions of today's useful gadgets were often quite large. One of the first computers was built in 1946. It was big enough to fill an entire 30-foot by 50-foot room. It had blinking lights and 6,000 manual switches. Computer operators used the switches to enter commands. It was capable of adding 5,000 numbers in a second. Relatively slow compared to the speed of today's much smaller laptops.
All right, so Annalie, in this first paragraph, you have such strong expression. You also went back and self-corrected entertainment in the moment once you were able to figure out that unknown word. The same thing with the word relatively. You were able to go back and self-correct. So keep that up. We're going to keep listening to your next paragraph.
Today, people download, store, and carry thousands of songs and gadgets no bigger than credit cards. However, during the early 1900s, music fans might turn on a chair-sized radio to listen to a live music broadcast, or they might open their large tabletop phonograph record player to play one of their favorite records.
Okay, the only mistake that you made here was you said that this was 19,000. What is this number? It is a date. Do you know what this number is?
1900s?
Yeah, it'd be the 1900s. That's a pretty tricky one because it's a date and not a time, so sometimes that can be a little challenging. All right, we're going to keep going.
The first handheld cell phones were heavy, awkward, and the size of a man's shoe. Today's cell phones are tiny and light. It is amazing to think how much gadgets can shrink.
Awesome. So here, you only made one error, Annalie, and you have 2 self-corrections, which is really strong. Which means you're at a 99% accuracy, and our goal is 97, so you crushed that. You also got 120 words per minute correct. Our goal is to get to 144 words per minute, so we're just going to continue to work on trying to read a little bit faster. Sound good?
I was just kind of getting messed up with the words, and it's I don't know, it's so you just get a word in your mind, but then you can't really say it.
No, absolutely, Annalie, and you did a really great job of once you were trying to figure out those words, you'd pick your speed back up. So now we're just going to try to make that even faster. And then also there were a lot of times where you would kind of repeat a word as you were trying to figure it out. And if we can try to figure out the unknown words even quicker, then we'll be able to get that up to 144 by the end of the year, which I'm absolutely sure you can do. Okay, so now we're going to go to your retell and we're going to listen to what you said for your retell about what the story was about, and I'm going to show you how I score it.
What happened in the article was it talked about how cell phones were different than now because they used to have many things that were very big and couldn't be taken out anywhere. For example, it would either be too big to be carried all day, and today we have cell phones which have music and videos, and they have almost social media in it, so technically we could take it, and it's a very small gadget which we could take along every single day, either to carry or not carry.
Great. So Annalie, you did a good job of summarizing the story. You told me a strong understanding of the topics, that this was about cell phones and things and how they've changed from the past to now. So I can give you a 2 for that. out of 3. Your vocabulary was also really strong. You included lots of vocabulary from the text. Your accuracy was also really strong. You made sure that you told me facts from the story, and you didn't use too much of your background information. Same with your details. Now, what we are going to work on is making sure that you include the main idea of the story in your summary. What do you think the main idea of this story was, Annalie?
Probably like how phones had changed since the past to like right now.
Absolutely.
It's like been moving on like faster and faster.
Right, yeah. So I think what would have made your retail even stronger was if you either launched or ended with that main idea, saying that this text was all about how technology has changed from the past to today, just like you said. So what are you going to work on next time to make your retail even stronger?
I'm gonna at least either when I put my summarize or when I end my summarize, at least add what the main idea is.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. And then the last part, you answered some questions about the story. And let's look at how you did. Okay, great. So, it says, what detail best supports the idea that gadgets have shrunk? You answered that one of the earliest computers was built in 1946. When it asks about the word shrunk, Annalie, what does that word mean? Do you know?
When it got smaller?
Yes. Do you think that the detail talking about how computers were built in 1946 talks about how they got smaller? No, it only talks about the year that they were built. So that actually wasn't the strongest piece of evidence. You needed to find something that talked about the size. So when you figure out what the word shrunk means and you know it has to do with getting smaller, then you need to try to find one of the answers that talks about the size of it. So that's why C was a stronger answer. One of the earliest computers would fill a 30-foot by 50-foot room. Because that tells us that when in the past, the computers were really big, and now we know computers are really small. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question you got incorrect was number 2. It says, read the example sentence. Today, people download, store, and carry hundreds of songs on gadgets no bigger than a credit card. What do you think the word gadgets means? I know that it can be tricky because it talks about credit cards here, so that might be why you thought it was a form of money. But when it's talking about gadgets, it's talking about like cell phones, computers, things like that. So gadgets is actually a small machine. Yeah, tricky. The other questions you got correct. You did a really great job of talking about how large were the first handheld cell phones. They were the size of a man's shoe, which is huge. Could you imagine, Annalie, having to carry around a cell phone that was as big as a shoe?
Yeah. Probably tiring to carry.
Right? Yes. And then you also talked about the author's purpose, and that question can be really tricky. The author's purpose was to inform us about the history of technology, and you already told us that because that was the main idea. So you did a really good job there. Thank you so much for working so hard on your running record, Annalie. We know that we're going to be working on 2 things next time. 1, trying to read a little bit faster, and then 2, trying to include the main idea in your retail. Sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, do you have any other questions for me?